Hey guys, the WalterFootball.com After Dark Show for August 1st, 2024. We're going to be talking about 2024 fantasy football sleepers and busts today. I just updated my list, so I'm going to go over them. Also, hopefully going to get a Reignmakers rant from Kenny. Usually we have Kenny on Wednesdays. As you can see, he's not on right now. He might be on. He's at a dinner event for work, but he said he might be able to come on depending on when he comes home. So not sure if he's going to do that, if he's going to be able to do that. But if he does come on, I can't wait for a rant about Reignmakers for him, because what happened with that is just abomination. So maybe I'll get into that as well at the end. But yeah, we'll discuss that as well in addition to the sleepers and busts. So I'm going to go over sleepers and busts first, and then hopefully Kenny could come on. But I'm not quite sure if he's able to, if he's going to be able to. So we'll see. I just sent him the link, so if he pops in, I'll have him come on. But yeah, just not sure. It's interesting, golf. Yeah, so this is a French course that's not on the PGA Tour. Obviously, they only play in America and England for the most part. Yeah, I have no data on this course at all. I haven't really looked into it. I wasn't going to do this. I wasn't going to make any bets this week. We'll be back for bets next week for sure when they do the Wyndham, and then they have the FedEx Cup playoffs for the 3 weeks. So we'll be doing that for sure. Just not this week. I didn't even know if I was going to make a DraftKings lineup. I was going to do a little bit of research on that. Just to have something, but again, I just don't feel comfortable making any bets or giving out any picks, because I don't know anything about this course. It's just not played at all. So I can look at the metrics and stuff like that and try to guess, but it's all just a guessing game. You really don't know how a course is going to play out until they do it. And I feel like we've struggled the most when we've had a new course, or we've had no data on a course, and I feel like it would just be that again. So I just didn't want to do it. So did Kenny quit because Reignmakers? No, Kenny did have a dinner event. He wanted to have a rant on Reignmakers, and hopefully we do get that. He said he might be home after midnight at some point. Obviously, 9 minutes till midnight on the East Coast. So we'll see if he comes on. I like I said, I sent him the link, so hopefully he can make it. Yeah, wise passing golf. Yeah, I just don't know what to make of it. Scheffler is obviously the best player, but he struggles on European courses. So I guess if I had to bet anything, it would be Xander. But like I said, I just don't know. I don't have any data on this course at all. I was going to maybe look into it for the DraftKings potentially. But if we're being honest, I don't even know if I'm going to play DraftKings in the future, depending on what they do with this payout for Reignmakers. And I'll talk about that eventually. But they did say there was going to be a payout. So if it's fair, then I'll continue to have contest info on DraftKings and content stuff on DraftKings. But if it's not fair, I'm going to go to litigation. I already talked to my lawyer about it. If it's not fair, then I'm just never going to recommend DraftKings ever again. In fact, I'm going to warn everyone not to ever go on DraftKings because of what they did with Reignmakers. So yeah, hopefully they said the payout's going to be within a week as of yesterday. So just waiting. Hopefully it is fair, so I don't have to go through this whole mess. But what they did was just so stupid. So I'll get into that. But yeah, I didn't even know if I know they had a contest for it. It says 5K to first right now. That's the only golf thing left. Actually, it starts at 3 a.m. So yeah, even if I was hey, let me make some let me do some research after the show, it would start pretty soon. It's at 3 a.m. So maybe I'll just enter a contest or something like that. I'm gonna reserve a spot, but I just I really didn't want to do this without having the information. So like I said, we'll be back with the golf stuff next week with the Wyndham. I usually bet guys to win the tournament. But Wyndham is one of those rare courses where it's different. There's this guy, Webb Simpson, who I used to be a good golfer, but he's in his 40s now, so he's not good anymore. But for some reason, he always still plays well at the Wyndham. In fact, like he's had so much success at the Wyndham that he named the son Wyndham. So he's someone I'm going to bet like a top 20 on. I don't know what the odds are, but they haven't been released yet, so I'll have that. But yeah, it's a course that's it's all about accuracy, like as opposed to the 3M, which is like a bomber's paradise. The Wyndham is all about accuracy, approach, and putting. So just going to have data on that for sure. And then Cassandra says demand reparations on a per MIMS basis. Yeah, I actually sold my legendary MIMS. Someone offered me $400 for it, so I sold it, and then I bought something else. Yeah, I was so prepared for the FedEx Cup playoffs. They had this playoff set where all the cards were more expensive. Like, for example, a regular rare Scheffler, Scotty Scheffler, was going for like $30-$40, and a rare Scheffler playoff card was going for like $400 or maybe even more, because the payouts were insane. Like the payout for the championship, the FedEx Cup championship in like 4 weeks, it was like $125,000 the first place, and they're only like, I think there are only like 500 Schefflers out there. So if you had one, you had a decent chance of winning, because a 1 in 500 chance of winning 125,000, and like second place is like 50 grand, third place is like 35 grand. So like the payouts are great. And they had other like rarity sets for these players, like a Scotty Scheffler Elite card. Normally would go for like $500. Scotty Scheffler Elite playoff card was going for like $1,100. So you just go on from there. That's how sought after these cards were. And I had two of each one. I had one Scheffler. I was going to buy a second one, but I had two Xanders, I had two Rorys, I had two Ludwigs, I had two Colin Morikawas, and then I was going to do like one Cantlay and one Sungjae. I didn't get a Sungjae, I got a Fleetwood, but I was considering Sungjae instead. So I had all these cards prepared for the FedEx Cup playoffs, and they're like, nope, no more Reignmakers, even though we were selling these cards that are premium. It's just a disaster. So yeah, I'll get into that. Hopefully Kenny comes on. If not, maybe he'll come on Thursday when we do our first mock draft after the Hall of Fame game. I'll have to see what his availability is. So I would like to get his feedback on this Reignmakers disaster. So anyway, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. All that would be really appreciated. As you can see here in the merch store, we have a bunch of t-shirts. I didn't get to do that apron yet. Our apron was taken offline. It was a Butker was right apron. I don't know if they thought it was too offensive, or if they're just like, we're not selling aprons anymore. They didn't tell me, but it's removed. I didn't get a chance to make the new one yet. We had an idea yesterday from Aton just to remake it, and says like, instead of Bucker was right. Well, have that also, but have like a field goal and like the ball sails wide right. So like you could say, hey, I'm not talking about what he said. It's just like he missed the field goal. So. I thought that was a pretty cool idea, but I should note that at 4 minutes it's going to be August. So August, this Gluttony Month T-shirt is available at the merch store. I didn't get mine yet. It's in the mail. It's coming soon. They said it's going to deliver on August 6th, which is my birthday. So I'm going to wear it on my birthday. So hopefully I get it by then. Yeah, we have a ton of t-shirts. So yeah, that any of that would help. Also, super chats, super stickers. You guys have been so helpful in your contributions. We had John Sanders yesterday. We had Slew a bunch of times. Germ recently. Kevin Kovac with $25 worth of super stickers one time a few weeks ago. Degeneron, like you guys have been so great with the contributions. So any further help in that regard would be awesome, because YouTube ads pay absolutely nothing. So it's just really appreciated. Also, you can go on Amazon to find my book, Jerks of the College Years. This is like Jerks of the Week on the site, except these are all my stories from my college years at Penn State. I spent 6 years there, so I was able to run into a lot of strange people, as you can see on the screen here. So, all right, let's get to. I'm going to do fantasy busts first, and then get to fantasy sleepers, and we're going to go 10-1. So this is like my least confident bust. and then I'm going to get to my most confident bust, and it also has to do with like ADP as well. The ADP is according to Fantasy Pros. It's as of this past afternoon, so it's pretty up to date. So my number 10 bust is Kyler Murray. His ADP is 703. I don't know. I like Murray if he can stay healthy. Like if you were to tell me, like if you were to come back from the future and be like, hey, well, for the first time, Murray's going to stay healthy for the entire season, I'd be like, okay, I'm on board. Let me draft him in like 7th round or something. But even that's like, it feels like a little too early. But the problem is that he's never been able to stay healthy for a whole season. He just always gets banged up. He always misses time. And yeah, he has Marvin Harrison Jr. now, so it's more exciting. But I mean, he did have DeAndre Hopkins before, and he's still spent time injured. So I don't know. I like the situation around him. I like the coaching staff. I like the offensive line a lot. You know, like I said, Harrison's there. Trey McBride was excellent last year. Greg Dortch is, I think, really developed into a kind of like a consistent, slot guy. I think that Murray just has a lot of good weapons. James Conner out of the backfield, but he can't stay healthy, and just I don't know. I don't want to rely on someone like that. I always felt that like in the early rounds, I always say this, like you can't win your draft in the early rounds, but you can lose it. And a surefire way to lose it is to draft a guy who gets injured all the time. So Kyler Murray, number 10 on my fantasy bust list. Number 9 is Josh Allen. So this is not really Josh Allen. This is basically a placeholder for any quarterback, and Josh Allen is the QB1 off the board. So if this were Patrick Mahomes going first among all quarterbacks, it would be him. But I just think that drafting a quarterback in the 2nd round or even early 3rd round is a huge mistake, given how thin the positions are at running back or receiver, like especially running back. It's so hard to find quality depth at the position. And we're going to know for sure when we do our fantasy drafts, but just like looking at my spreadsheets and stuff like that, I'm like, man, running back really falls off, where I look at quarterback and I just like 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th round, I can get like decent players at the position. I just think that you're just better served just waiting on a quarterback. But, it all depends on where Josh Allen goes. So his ADP here is 208. If you're drafting and everyone in your league thinks similarly and like they're all like, we're not going to draft quarterbacks, and suddenly you're in the 4th round and Josh Allen's there, like I'm going to take him in a heartbeat. It just depends on where you can get him. 2nd round, though, it's way too early for any quarterback. And, Josh Allen here, like, he does have to gel with his new receivers. There's that. Like he has a high floor because of his rushing ability, but he doesn't have Stephon Diggs anymore. There's no Gabe Davis, who once in a while will have a huge game. He's going to have to gel with Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel. The Khalil Shakir was there last year, but he's still young. And then there's the tight ends. So I still think he's going to have a good year, but there might be some bumpy roads in the first half of the year anyway. But like I said, his rushing ability makes him a viable threat. So yeah, 4th round, fine. 2nd round, just way too early for any quarterback. Number 8, speaking of quarterbacks, number 8, Lamar Jackson. So his ADP is 4th round, but I'm not taking him there. So my concern with Lamar Jackson is twofold. One, before 2023, he was seen as a guy who couldn't finish a season. Like in 2021 and 2022, he just got hurt toward the end of the year and just couldn't finish the year. And then last year, he was able to stay on the field. But I don't know if you can count on that just based on one season. Also, the second problem is that he lost 3 offensive linemen this offseason. So the blocking is going to be worse. So I don't think Jackson's going to have an MVP caliber season. You can argue that maybe last year wasn't even an MVP caliber season, even though he won the award, just based on like no one really deserved it last year. But I think Jackson will regress this year because of the diminished offensive line. Now, there's a chance that the new guys they get are just adequate replacements. The Ravens do draft well, but I don't know. Just based on the talent that they lost, I feel like there's going to be a decline in blocking. And we saw that in 2019 to 2020. 2019, Jackson won MVP in his best year. And then 2020, they lost Marshall Yanda to retirement, and then Ronnie Stanley got hurt early in the year. And the blocking was much worse, and Jackson just really regressed that year. And I think we could see something similar this season. Justice, how dare you, sir? Yeah, 2nd round is crazy for QB. It definitely is. And unless it's 2 QB league. Yeah, that for sure. Yeah, a 2 QB league for sure. Draft quarterbacks as early as possible. But yeah, they're just running backs and receivers are just so thin compared to quarterbacks. All right, number 7, we have Trey McBride. So I talked about another Cardinal before with Kyler Murray. This is an Arizona player here in McBride. His ADP is 410. I just think that's insane. I feel like it's just an overreaction to what we saw last year. McBride just went nuts in the second half of the year, but that occurred when the Cardinals had some injuries at the position. And now they have Marvin Harrison Jr. So I don't think that Kyler Murray is going to be targeting McBride so much with Harrison there. Harrison's going to get a healthy number of targets. You can have Greg Dortch, you have Michael Wilson, you have James Conner. Like McBride was just targeted so much because there was no one else. Now that's not the case with Harrison. I feel like Harrison's just going to get so many more targets, and he's going to take that away from McBride. And I don't think people are factoring that in. Like I think taking a tight end period in the first 4 rounds is kind of nuts. Unless like 4th round for maybe like Sam Laporte, I could see, but he's not going to last that long. I would even consider like maybe Dalton Kincaid because he could have a Travis Kelce type season that we saw in 2022 because, people are wondering which receiver is going to step up for the Bills. And I feel like it could just be Kincaid. But I still think a tight end at that round is just way too early. It's the same thing with the quarterbacks. Like you look at the tight ends available in rounds 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Like they're good. They're good players. I think it was like the ESPN draft that we looked at, and like Cole Kmet went in the final round. I think that was the case. I'm fine drafting Cole Kmet in the final round. Just there's no need to draft the tight end in round 4, especially a guy like McBride who I feel like is due for some regression based on what we saw from last year. So I don't like it. Sue says I'd rather have Andrews, Kittle, or Kincaid than McBride. Yeah, I could definitely see that. I think in my rankings I do have those guys over McBride as well. We're on the same page there. Number 6, speaking of tight ends, Travis Kelce, 303. So what I said about McBride applies to Kelce as well, but there's the added thing with Kelce is that he's an older player. Last regular season, and people, I guess, forgot this because he was so great in the playoffs. But last year during the regular season, he just wasn't effective, and now he's going to be 35 as of October, and he could still be distracted by Taylor Swift. I feel like that may have been the case last year, but he just wasn't effective until the playoffs, and then he turned it on. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that the entire year. I mean, he might coast to the playoffs. Maybe that's what happened last year. Maybe he was like, I'm an older guy, just going to take it easy, and then come playoff time, going to turn it on. Like I could see that happening. To draft him in the 3rd round, I think is just nuts. I can't envision a scenario in which I'd want to do that. This is not 2022 where he's the only target there. Also, they got Marquise Brown. They drafted Xavier Worthy. They still have Rashee Rice. We'll see if he's going to be suspended or not. They have receivers now. It's not like 2 years ago when they didn't have anyone. Mahomes doesn't have to target him nonstop. So it's just a different situation. Number 5, we have Mike Evans. His ADP is 309. Tampa fans have a long history of hating what I have to say about their team, but Mike Evans is going to be 31 in 3 weeks. So that is usually the age in which receivers who rely on their speed fall off. And Evans is obviously a deep threat. And, maybe you can evolve into a possession receiver perhaps, but I think he's due for regression this year. There's no Dave Canales anymore. That was a big part of his breakout season last year. I wouldn't say breakout season, like breakout compared to the year before with Baker Mayfield. I think he might be due for decline because there's no Canales. Instead, it's going to be Liam Cohen. We don't know how he's going to do as offense coordinator, but we do know that Liam Cohen's offenses usually revolve around the slot receiver, and that's going to be Chris Godwin this year. So if you're looking at Evans versus Godwin at their ADP, like I'd much rather have Chris Godwin. Even if their ADP was kind of close, I would still maybe prefer Godwin in PPR. I just think Evans is due for regression given his age. We have number 4. We have Cooper Kupp. His ADP is 406. It's another receiver who's 31. Now he doesn't quite rely on his speed, kind of like Mike Evans does, but He only had 2 100-yard games last year after week 6. I think that he might be he might continue his decline. And this is Puka Nakua's offense now. He's not the number one target anymore. It's like Stafford used to just force feed him the ball nonstop, and that's not the case. And I think people who are drafting him in the 4th round might be looking at their stats, or they might have like member berries where like, I remember Cooper Kupp, he had like 1 billion receptions. That's not going to be the case anymore. It's all going to be about Puka Nakua. And I think like this ADP of 406 is definitely price memory. I think that it's a little absurd. Like, I think that Cooper Kupp should probably go like 6th, 7th round at the very earliest. I think 406 is pretty insane. Let's see, John says tight end is odd this year. You usually have you have a top 2 or 3 in tier 1. This year I could easily see 8 to 10 tight ends finishing as a tight end 1. Yeah, I could definitely see that. I think Sam Laporta is the favorite for sure. But you have a bunch of other guys. Like you still have, like, Kelsey could still get there for sure. You have Mark Andrews, you have Trey McBride that we talked about. You also have Dalton Kincaid. Like I said, I think he could have a huge year. I have him as my tight end too. George Kittle, Mark Andrews, maybe Jake Ferguson, especially if CeeDee Lamb holds out. Like if Lamb decides to just hold out and not play, which I think he will play, just like saying hypothetically, like I feel like Ferguson would just like shoot up the draft board. So I think any of those 7 guys that I mentioned could have a chance. Dallas Goedert, even he's there. I don't think Brock Bowers quite yet, but Evan Ingram is another guy. If Brian Thomas is a bust, then Ingram can get there too. Like Ingram had an insane year last year, catching wise. I think he finished 4th in the NFL in receptions total. I'm not talking about tight ends, like overall receptions, Evan Ingram. So yeah, I mean, any of those guys could definitely get there. Yeah, Hawkinson, McBride, yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, Hawkinson is coming off the torn ACL. If he wasn't coming off the torn ACL, I'd definitely listen there too. Sue says Kupp really got beat up last year. Did he not? Yeah, he seems to get injured all the time too. That's another thing with Kupp, is that he has an injury history that you just don't want. Like for an early round guy, if he was going much later, you know, if they didn't have these member berries, these people drafting him, and they kind of looked at his age and stuff like that, and like drafted him fairly, and like I feel like a fair range for him would be like 7th or 8th round. Like at that point, you could take the risk, but in the 4th round, like you could easily lose your league if you waste a 4th round pick on Cooper Kupp. I just think it's a big mistake. Kim Eagle says Kincaid will be targeted often. Yeah, I totally agree. I think he's going to have a huge year. I've seen, I listen to various podcasts on YouTube when I'm like either driving or walking the dogs, and there's like, I don't hear any optimism on Kincaid, and people are like, "Oh, I think Kincaid, maybe tight end in the top 10 this year, maybe 6th, 7th round." I'm like, that's kind of nuts. Like, I feel like, I don't know. I think Kincaid's going to be much better than that. I just don't know why people are down on that. Maybe because of Dawson Knox, but I just don't get it. Like Kincaid's just such a talented player. I think that his ceiling is just through the roof. So. Yeah, I like him a lot. All right, let's get to the top 3 busts. Number 3, Nick Chubb. Even though his ADP is 804, I still think that's way too early. Nick Chubb may not even play this year. He suffered such a brutal injury, a knee injury. It wasn't just torn ACL. He like tore all of his ligaments in that knee. It was just so bad. I'd be shocked if he even sees the field in the first half of the year. Maybe they get him going in the second half. But even when they do, I think that he's just going to be at risk for other injuries. Like you see this all the time when running backs come back way too early from injuries, from these ACL injuries, and they suffer like a torn Achilles or some sort of other leg injury because they compensate too much for their torn ACL. I hope that's not the case. I hope Nick Chubb can make a recovery because he's such a talented player, but it's just not realistic. You might think back to like Adrian Peterson, who had the 2,000-yard year after he torn his ACL, but like he's just a freak of nature. Like you just don't see that all the time. Last year, you did have Breece Hall. He had a great second half of the year coming off the torn ACL, but he was a younger player, and it wasn't a case where he tore all of his ligaments. It was just a clean ACL tear. And the Jets even got him started very slowly. In the first 5 games, they're like they handcuffed him pretty well. And then it was that Denver game. I think that was week 6 or week 5. They finally unshackled him, and then he went off. And I think that I hope the Browns feel that way about Chubb. They're like, all right, we're not going to play you first half of the year. Maybe second half of the year, we'll get you going a little bit. And then if you can show that you're healthy, maybe come December, you'll be full go. I think that's best case scenario for Chubb, really. Like, I don't think, like I said, I'd be shocked if he plays before November. I think that's just it's kind of ridiculous to think that he can. And yeah, I mean, 804. Like you're drafting a guy who's not going to play in the first half of the year and just may not be effective at all. I think that's a huge mistake. So yeah, just no to Chubb this year. John Sanders says Jerome Ford time. Yeah, exactly. I like Jerome Ford this year, and he's being drafted late. I think his ADP is like 10th or 11th round, which seems kind of insane. Kimmy Eagle says, "What week will Hawkinson be healthy and ready to go?" You never know with these torn ACLs. I'm always cautious drafting these skill position players off 20 ACLs. Now, tight end's a little different, but I think that the injury was a little late. So I could see probably like mid-October or something like that. I think that's maybe a fair expectation for Hawkinson, but I just don't know. Every case is different. It's very difficult to predict. All right. So number 2, we have Kenneth Walker. His ADP is 408. I could almost hear Kenny just like seething, like, because I know he's a big fan of Kenneth Walker. This is like not really anything to do with Kenneth Walker. I like him as well, but this is more about his situation, and I think this is twofold. One, Seattle lost 3 starting offensive linemen this offseason, like Baltimore, but like they lost every single interior blocker. Their interior blocking looks pretty bad right now. So I think the run blocking is going to be far worse than it was in years past. So if you're expecting like the same output from Walker based on the same number of opportunities, I think that you're mistaken. I think that he's due for a regression from that regard. The other thing is that I think that with Pete Carroll gone, I think there's a chance that Seattle just really bottoms out and might be one of the worst teams in the NFL this year. And I don't want a running back on one of the worst teams in the NFL unless that running back catches a ton of passes, and that's not Walker. So I think that like Seattle could be in a position where they're in like huge deficits all the time, and then Walker is just not getting the carries because they're not ahead and they just can't run the ball in the second half. So like there could be stretches where he gets like 10 carries, 12 carries, 11 carries. You just don't want that out of your 4th round pick. Again, if Walker were a guy who could catch 50, 60 passes, I'd be okay with it, but he's not. And so like you might see Charbonnet a lot in the second half as they play catch up. So yeah, not a fan of Walker at all. My number 1 bust is Derrick Henry. Kenny's happy about this one. His ADP is 210. So this is again, I said Baltimore lost 3 starting offensive linemen. So you're drafting an old running back playing behind an offensive line that lost 3 starters, and this same running back was losing touches to Tajay Spears last year. And I know that the Ravens don't have much else at running back. They have Keaton Mitchell, but he's coming off a torn ACL as well. They have Justice Hill, like that's their other top backup. So like they can't give the ball to anyone else. They don't have a Tajay Spears on the roster at the moment, unless you really like Keaton Mitchell, but again, torn ACL. The problem is like Henry is just not the same running back he once was. Like he used to be so dominant, but that's not the same player. This is kind of like Cooper Kupp territory. You have these member berries where you're like, I remember Derrick Henry, and like, yeah, Derrick Henry used to be great, but not so much anymore. He's an old player, and the offensive line might be bad. I think that again, there's a chance that these replacements are good, and if they are, then Henry will make me look a little foolish here, but still, I still think that he's an older player, and that ADP is insane. Like 2nd round for Henry. Like I wouldn't touch him at the end of the 3rd round or even the 4th round. I think maybe end 4th round I'd consider it, but still, like I just don't know what the upside here is. You have Lamar Jackson who could run in for touchdowns. Like you're going to lose touchdown equity, and I just think that Baltimore's offense could be worse than we've seen because of the offensive line departures. Yeah, so those are my busts. Gonna get to these sleepers now. So hold on. My number 10 sleeper is Ray Davis. His ADP is 1405. So I think like James Conner. So James Cook is obviously the running back there, but if he gets hurt, I just don't know who else they turn to. I feel like it almost has to be Ray Davis, and I think that even if James Cook doesn't get injured, Ray Davis is still going to get opportunities at the goal line because James Cook is not a goal line back. They have Ty Johnson, but I don't think Ty Johnson is any good. And if Ray Davis is anywhere near the prospect that that the Bills think he is when they draft him in the 4th round, then I think he has a real chance to be the ball carrier if James Cook were to go down. John says Ty Johnson got hurt, so he'd probably be the clear number 2. Yeah, I think so as well. So I like him in the 14th round. Usually opposed to rookie players, I think they get drafted way too early. But I mean, we're talking about a guy in the 14th round. So I have another rookie as well that I'll discuss in a second. But Jahan Dotson is my number 9. His ADP is 1309. So I liked him last year. I had him as a sleeper last year, but he didn't pan out. I think his ADP last year was like 10th round or 9th round. So he was going even earlier than this. But he was just paired with a terrible quarterback because Sam Howell couldn't get anything out of Terry McLaurin or Jahan Dotson. And then in the brief moments in which Howell was benched in that Rams game late in the year and then against the Jets the following week, you saw Terry McLaurin just go off. And it was almost like, oh, wow, it was not McLaurin and Dotson struggling. It was Sam Howell just being so terrible because he was dumping passes off or taking sacks like at an insane rate. With a real quarterback in there, McLaurin went off, and I think Dotson could do the same thing. Like he was drafted in the 1st round, so he has great potential. And Jaden Daniels is really talented. He can get the ball downfield, and I think that with his ability to do so, I think that both McLaurin and Dotson could have bounce back years for sure. So it's kind of insane that Dotson is going 3 rounds later than he was last year, even though he has a better quarterback now. And people are just thinking about what happened last year, but you can't really factor that in because just because of how bad the quarterbacking was. That's just you and your Redskins. Yeah. Well, I had to get one guy in there for sure. He's the only guy I have. Mike asking, where's Kenny? Kenny is at a dinner event for work right now. He says he might be on. I haven't got a text. He said, unless we do this is from earlier in the day. He said, unless we do a midnight show and just rail against DraftKings, he might come on. So I sent him the link. So he could pop in at any time. I'm not sure if he's going to. But hopefully he does because I want his rant about Reignmakers. I want to discuss that with him a little bit. But if he can't come on, I'll hopefully be able to get him on tomorrow for the draft, our first fantasy mock draft. All right, so hopefully Kenny comes on. My number 8 fantasy sleeper is this is the other rookie I was talking about, Ricky Pearsall. His ADP is 1508, so you're getting him in the round where usually you should draft defenses and kickers, so he could be your final pick. So it's still like Brandon Ayuk doesn't seem like he's going to get traded, but he might be traded. There's still a chance that happens. Even if he doesn't, though, like Deebo Samuel has gotten banged up quite a bit. And all it takes is really just either Samuel or Ayuk to go down, and it's the Ricky Pearsall show. Like the Niners don't have much depth at all at receiver. It's just Pearsall really. So if one of those top receivers gets hurt or traded, Pearsall is just gonna have a great opportunity in this offense. So even if that doesn't happen, like 15th round for a guy drafted in the 1st round, the Niners like him a lot. Like I think that's a good bargain. So. Like I said, I don't really like to draft rookies because they're overdrafted, but 15th round just seems way too late for this guy who has a ton of potential given the opportunity in this offense. Number seven is Darnell Mooney, also in the 15th round. His ADP is 1504. So I feel like Kenny would disagree with this one. I think he hates Darnell Mooney, and quite frankly, I do as well. He was just a non-factor last year. The past couple of years, he just hasn't done anything. But he did have a good season a few years ago, and I kind of remember that. And if you look at all the quarterbacks the Bears have had since then, it's just terrible quarterbacking, passing wise. Justin Fields was effective, but as a runner, like he wasn't a great passer. But now the Falcons have Kirk Cousins, and I think that Kirk Cousins can get a lot out of his weapons here if he's healthy. That's the big thing. We don't know if Cousins is healthy coming off the torn Achilles. If he is, I think that Mooney could have the same sort of season he had a few years ago, and so he would definitely pay off his 15th round ADP. So I think he's an interesting guy to target like I said, Kenny would certainly disagree with this because I know he hates it, but it's worth noting I did have a Darnell Mooney Rainmaker card from 2023, so I was going to be able to use it in past contests to win new cards. So sad moment for me. It's a poor one out there. John says, does the bill is fake work for him when paying the dinner? Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to ask him about that when he comes on. Mike says, you're doing great by yourself. Excellent FFL analysis tonight. Thank you so much, Mike. Really appreciate it. Thanks for always being on here and just always participating in the comments. Just really appreciate you guys who are always on. But yeah, hopefully Kenny comes on. I would love to get his take on Reignmakers and stuff. And I was almost about to say like maybe we'll do a pack opening, but no, they actually I had some old golf packs that I wanted to sell, and Reignmakers or DraftKings, I should say, they open all my packs automatically. So I can't even open up a packs that I still have in my inventory. They just open them up automatically. It's just I'll get into this later, but I can't believe what they did. It's just so ridiculous. Mike says for the tip, Kenny probably gives the waiter FFL advice. Yeah, well, if they play fantasy football, they could make a lot of money off of it. So better than a real tip, I suppose. All right, so next on the sleepers list, number 6, we have Khalil Shakir. So here's someone for John. Shakir has been looking good in training camp. Then again, I feel like most players could say that, but I don't know. Shakir had some good showings last year. He had 2 100-yard games, even though there's still Stephon Diggs on the roster, still Gabe Davis on the roster. Now it's just Keon Coleman and Curtis Samuel. I think Curtis Samuel's going to have a good year, but he's just a slot receiver. So if you're talking non-PPR, I think Shakir could be the top receiver. Could be Keon Coleman as well for sure. But Shakir has the experience. So I think that he's worth a look in the 11th round. I don't know how much potential he has exactly. Like I don't think he's going to be like a superstar in the NFL or anything like that. But he could be a good fantasy player in this offense that could have a lot of scoring, especially later in the year when Josh Allen gets more chemistry with his guys. But Shakir was there last year, and he does have. He has the most chemistry at receiver than anyone else on the roster at the moment. So I think that's definitely worth some consideration. Number 5, we have Josh Palmer, another guy Kenny wouldn't like. His ADP is 1205. I just feel like he's the number 1 receiver. And like, in what world is Justin Herbert's number 1 receiver going in the 12th round? Just doesn't make sense. I know Ladd McConkey's there, but he's a rookie. He's going to be playing in the slot, but this is Herbert's number 1 outside guy, and frankly, we just don't know what we're going to get out of McConkey yet. He's a rookie, so there could be some growing pains. And I'm thinking, where are the targets going to go? Like, I know the Chargers are going to run more than they did last year, but last year they had Keenan Allen, they had Mike Williams for a couple games, and they had Austin Eckler. Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler commanded so many targets. Like, these targets have to go somewhere. And it's not like a Chiefs situation where, it's not going to go to a receiver. It's going to go to a tight end. Like the Chargers tight ends are bad too. So they don't even have Gerald Everett anymore. The top tight ends on their roster are Will Dissly, Hayden Hurst, and Donald Parham Jr. Like, these guys aren't going to get like massive the target shares. So it has to go to like Josh Palmer or maybe DJ Chark, but he's always injured. There's Quentin Johnston, but he's not playing with the first team right now in practice, so I kind of soured on him. There's Brendan Rice, who might be this year's Puka Nacua. I like Brendan Rice a little bit. He's someone that Kenny and I discussed in like the gold mine, where it's like your final pick. You're just taking a shot on a guy, and like given the opportunity, he could go off. But I feel like Palmer right now is the far and away favorite to be the leader in receiving yards for the Chargers. So I like him quite a bit. 12th round, I feel like it's a steal for that. John says I like McConkey more because Keenan Allen fed in the slot. Yeah, I know, but again, like McConkey's just a rookie, and it's a new offense too. So I don't know. Palmer has some rapport with Herbert already, whereas McConkey doesn't in real action. So we'll see. It could be McConkey for sure. You could be right about that. And in PPR, I think I'd like McConkey more. But in non-PPR, I think I would take Palmer. John says Samuel has an injury history, so he could be worth a shot. Yeah, exactly. Like Samuel tends to get banged up, so it's another reason to like Shakir. So I like him in the later rounds. And then Sue says Palmer always impressed me when he had to fill in for injured Mike Williams. Yeah, I like him as well. I don't know why people are so down on him, like drafting him in the 12th round. I don't get this ADP. I guess like people like McConkey, but it's not like McConkey's going early too. So potentially Herbert's number one receiver is going in the 12th round, which doesn't make any sense. All right, so let's get to the next guy. Our number 4 sleeper is Chase Brown. His ADP is 10-11. So last year, obviously, he had Joe Mixon in front of him. He's a longtime Bengal running back, so he wasn't going to get many opportunities. But he did get some touches later in the year, and I thought he looked pretty good. Now, the Bengals signed Zach Moss with Joe Mixon gone, and Zach Moss is the presumed starter. I think his ADP is like 7th round or something like that. But I just think that like Zach Moss is not guaranteed to lead the Bengals in carries. It could be Chase Brown, and Chase Brown has been getting touches with the first team. It's been Zach Moss and Chase Brown, so this could be a 50-50 split or something like that. It could be like 1A, 1B. So I'm more than happy to take the guy in the later rounds, and the Bengals should have a great offense. There's going to be lots of scoring opportunities for either of the running backs, and Chase Brown going at the end of the 10th round seems like a good steal. He could, like I said, it could be 50-50, but if Brown is looking more impressive than Moss, who I don't think he's that good, then he could end up being the leading ball carrier, and you're getting potentially a number 1 running back on a good offense at the end of the 10th round. I just think that's such a great steal. So he's someone I'm going to be targeting for sure. Number 3, we have Chuba Hubbard. Speaking of number 1 running backs on offenses, maybe you could say that Carolina doesn't have as good of an offense, which is true. But they have Dave Canales there. I think Carolina is going to improve a lot. They signed 2 offensive linemen who are pretty good in the interior. They have Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis. They already had good tackles. Like their interior blocking last year was abysmal. That's not going to be the case anymore. So they're going to be able to run block a lot better. And people are taking Jonathan Brooks just way too early. He's a rookie. He's coming off a torn ACL. This kind of reminds me of the line situation last year, and to a lesser extent. So last year, everyone was crazy about Jahmyr Gibbs. I was as well, because they spent an early pick on him. And so it made sense to target Jahmyr Gibbs early in the early rounds. But Dave Montgomery didn't go away. Like, they still fed Montgomery more than Gibbs earlier in the year. And even late in the season, it was 50-50. Jonathan Brooks was not a first-round pick like Jahmyr Gibbs was. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs was taken 12th overall. Jonathan Brooks is taken in the 2nd round. And, again, torn ACL. So they may just get the ball going to him earlier or less early in the season. And Hubbard's the starting running back for the Panthers right now, behind a good offense or a better offensive line and a good offensive-minded coach. I just feel like there's a lot of potential here in the 12th round. And he could just hold off Brooks for the entire season. Now, there's a chance Brooks eats into his workload in the second half of the year. It's possible. But I also think like Hubbard, who has looked good in training camp, he could just hold off Brooks for the entire year, and then maybe next year you go after Jonathan Brooks. But I think this season I'd rather have Chuba Hubbard, especially in the 12th round. I think that's just a great steal. All right, our number 2 sleeper is Brian Thomas Jr. His ADP is 10.05. Again, this is another rookie, and I really don't like drafting rookies early, but 10th round for Brian Thomas seems like potentially a good bargain. I'm thinking like, I remember DK Metcalf coming into the NFL, and I recall what I thought about him. I was like, man, this guy has so much potential. I think he's going to be an amazing receiver down the road, but he's raw. It's his first year. I'm like, I don't think he's going to do that much his first year, and then maybe second year I'm going to really target him in fantasy. And then Metcalf just kind of like nuked his rookie year. He was so awesome. And I just don't want to miss out on Brian Thomas for the same reason. Brian Thomas has just sky-high potential. He's just such a great athlete. But he's going to be playing in a good offense here with Trevor Lawrence. With the Calvin Ridley gone, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for Brian Thomas. So I don't want to miss out on this great talent in an efficient offense with a good quarterback. There's a chance like Brian Thomas wins Offensive Rookie of the Year. Like Marvin Harrison Jr. is the favorite for a good reason. Still Malik Neighbors. Like I still think they have better odds, and you have Caleb Williams and Jane Daniels. But if Brian Thomas could have this amazing rookie year, kind of like Metcalf had, he could make a case for offensive rookie of the year. Now it's probably going to go to a quarterback or Harrison just because they're the big names, but Thomas could have just this amazing season. So I want to target him in the 10th round. If he was like going 7th, 8th round, I'd be more concerned drafting a rookie. But if you're talking double-digit rounds for a rookie, I think that's perfectly fine. Like at that point, especially a first-round player like Brian Thomas, like they're not going early like some of these other rookies are. And my number one sleeper for 2024 is J.K. Dobbins. You can't be surprised here because Kenny and I have been talking about J.K. Dobbins all offseason. He's just the most talented running back on a team that wants to run the ball, and also a team that used this first-round pick on an offensive lineman in Joe Alt. So they've improved their offensive line. They want to run more, and it's like, okay, so who's it going to be? Is it going to be J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards or Kamani Vidal? Like people are taking Kamani Vidal around the same range in which Dobbins is going, which I think is insane. And then there's Gus Edwards, who's just proven to be so pedestrian that it doesn't matter if he gets opportunities or not. J.K. Dobbins, when he's healthy, is pretty terrific. The problem is that he hasn't been able to stay healthy, but he's now 2 years removed from the torn ACL. Last year, I hated him. I didn't want anything to do with Dobbins because he was coming off the torn ACL. And lo and behold, he tore his Achilles. Like, it's what happens to these players coming off ACLs way too early. But now, again, he's 2 years removed now. He's looking great in training camp. Again, you can say that about anyone almost, but he looks healthy, and that's the most important thing. And I referenced this earlier. I can't remember who I was talking to, but Daniel Jeremiah, who he's obviously the NFL Network draft guy, but he also does Chargers broadcasting for the radio station. And he knows, well, first of all, there's that connection, but he also knows a lot of Ravens people because he used to work in the Ravens organization. And now you have Roman coming over from Baltimore, and the just personnel from Baltimore has come over to the Chargers. And so he said on, I don't know if it's like some sort of podcast or something, but he was talking about fantasy football, and he's like, if you're in a fantasy league, just make sure you get J.K. Dobbins on your roster, because if he stays healthy, he could have an insane year. Like I said, the Chargers are going to run a lot, and they're going to run with Dobbins because he's their best running back by far. I know that like some people like Gus Edwards. I just don't see it. Like I just think he's so mediocre. I know he's gotten paid more than Dobbins, but he's been healthier, so I get it. But Dobbins, when healthy, is just so much better than Edwards. It's not even close. So. I just think that his potential this year is just through the roof. So, I like J.K. Dobbins. So those are my sleepers. I don't know if you guys have thought of anyone that I might have missed. I updated this list today for the update tomorrow. So I may have missed someone. It's kind of crazy here with 2 kids running around, especially my son, who's now 2.5, and he's he used to be like super into Mario Brothers. Now he's like really into Paw Patrol. So he always loses his toys, and he's always yelling. He's like, where's Marshall? Where's Rubble? I'm like, dude, you just put them under the couch. I like when I was putting him in the bed, we had this dresser in his room, and he for some reason he put his toys under his dresser, and then in like 10 minutes later he's like, where's Paw Patrol? I'm like, dude, you just put them there. And he's like, oh, and then he asked for my flashlight on my phone to look, and so he can get them out. I just like, why'd you do that? Why'd you put them under the dresser if you're just gonna get them out 10 minutes later? So doesn't make much sense. But I don't know. I mean, he's only 2, so it's pretty funny. John says, it's just the history of running backs coming off a torn Achilles. It's even more devastating than ACL with running backs. I'd have to look at that. I don't. You could be right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I just don't know. I know that the ACL the following year is just devastating for running backs outside of Adrian Peterson. Also Breece Hall. It also depends on the severity of the tear too. It's every injury is gonna be different. But Achilles, I'll have to look into that. But by all accounts, he's looking great. And that injury occurred before the season started too. It happened in the preseason, I believe. or at least in training camp for Dobbins. So like he didn't even play last year, I don't think, or may have been the first game actually. Now that I think about it, but yeah. So John says no running back has ever been fantasy relevant after tearing his Achilles in the history of the league. The history of the league. Wow. Okay, I'll have to dig into that because right now I like Dobbins a lot, but you know if I do that research and that's true, then yeah, I'm gonna sour on him. But I still like in the 11th round, you're not taking that much of a risk. It's not like you're drafting him in the 4th or 5th round. You're taking him in the 11th round, and like yeah, usually your double-digit round players are going to bust. I just think that like maybe he busts that trend. You know, like usually the most devastating injury is the patellar tendon. And like no player used to come back for that at all. Like their careers would be over. And then I can't remember who it was. It was some offensive player. He had a torn patellar tendon and he came back the next year and was just fine. I'm like, this is strange. So, you know, there's the first time for everything. And, like I said, I like the opportunities here. It's an offense that's going to run a lot behind a great offensive line or a talented offensive line, at least. And he's going to get the opportunities because every other guy sucks. So, yeah, so I was just thinking hypothetically, like if I draft him in the 11th round and he starts the year with like 5 or 6 great games and I can enjoy those games, you know, after probably like week 2, just to make sure that he's playing. If I've had like 3 or 4 great games out of him and then he gets hurt, like am I upset that I drafted him in the 11th round? Like probably not, you know, that's probably more than I'm going to get out of an 11th rounder anyway. So I still think I'm okay with him, but I do want to do that research into the torn Achilles. So I want to see. I want to see for myself. Like, not that I don't trust you. I just like I'm kind of curious. Like, where did you get that that data? Because maybe it'll make my research a little easier. Let's see. Kenny Ortiz says something. McDonald could be coach of the year. He'll make adjustments to improve that defense. Man, I don't know. I like that. The offense is going to suck too because they lost 3 offensive linemen. Yeah, so I don't know. I like, yeah, the defense could be better. The defense lost all 3 linebackers and a starting safety, and their pass rush was really good. They can't stop the run. Last year, I think they were dead last or 31st against the run. So I don't know. I just don't see it with Seattle. I think they're going to struggle this year. I talked with Aton last night. We both love the Seahawks other wins. So. And Mike says, I would think you just can't make cuts after a torn Achilles. Yeah. Also, you have to remember that, you know, medical technology has changed a lot. So, you know, stuff that wasn't possible a couple of decades ago or even 5 years ago, it could be different now. So that has to be in consideration. Slew, 555 super chat. Thank you so much, Slew. Really appreciate it. He says, you didn't mention Jalen Wright. He intrigues me since they traded up for him, and he can see a scenario where second half of the season he goes off with fresh legs. Yeah, he's kind of interesting. I want to see what his ADP is. I can't imagine it being very high. So Jalen Wright, let's see. His ADP is 142 overall, which is 12-10. Yeah, I mean that's a fair place to draft him. So my concern with Miami is that their defense this year is going to be far worse than it was last year. Like they lost Christian Wilkins. Bradley Chubb is coming off a horrible injury. Jalen Phillips is also coming off another. He's also coming off a bad injury. So. You have like all like the talented players on the Dolphins are either injured or gone, and they also lost a bunch of linebackers too. So I think the defense can be a lot worse this year. And what happened last year was they used to get out to these huge leads, and the second half they just sit on the ball because their defense was really good, and they were just able to run the ball like crazy in the second half. And I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I feel like they're going to have to throw a lot. In the second half because they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. And that's why I've said before, like, I think that the Dolphins could be involved in like a lot of like 49-42 games. Like their games this year are going to be insane, at least until like, you know, Chubb and Phillips come back from injury. Like, I don't know how effective they're going to be. Maybe the second half of the year, they'll be effective. And then maybe that goes along with what you're saying here in the second half of the year where you have Jalen Wright. So I think that he's someone that you could look into for sure. I saw his name when I was looking at the ADP, and I actually thought about adding him to the sleepers list. He didn't quite make the cut, but he could definitely be there because Devon Achane has an injury history. He's very small, and I think that he's going to get banged up a lot. Raheem Mostert's super old for a running back in the NFL, and he's been around a lot. So he's 32, which is like ancient for a running back. And he also has an injury history. So in the second half of the year, like who knows, maybe Mostert and Achane both go down, and it's the Jalen Wright show, and then it kind of converges with where the defense improves when Chubb and Phillips are finally healthy. So yeah, that could be a recipe for success for sure. So maybe I'll add into the sleepers list. I think that's a good suggestion. So thank you so much, Lou, for the 555 super chat. Just really appreciate it. Mike says no shutout. Thank you so much, Lou. Yeah, it's keep it going here. So just really appreciate you guys being so supportive all the time. It really means a lot to just know you guys are always here. You sometimes we get like new guys commenting. Like last night there's a guy named Martin on here I never saw before. Usually like we have like the same group of guys in here, which is pretty awesome. So glad you guys are always here. So yeah, I mean those are the sleepers and busts. It's 12:43. Kenny's not on. I don't know if he's going to make an appearance or not. But I will reach out to him and ask if he can come on tomorrow. Tomorrow I plan on doing a fantasy mock draft after the Hall of Fame game. So like right afterward. I don't even know if we're going to do a write up for the game because I just don't know if like any of these guys are going to play. Like we're going to get a lot of what's his name? Davis Mills. They said Davis Mills is going to play a lot tomorrow. Like, does that sound exciting to you? Like, what are we going to get out of that? Like, we know who Davis Mills is. There's nothing to learn from Davis Mills. I'm sure we're going to see some rookies play. Blake Fisher will play. There's the Texans' second round tackle. So we get to watch him, I suppose. But like even still, you're watching him against backups. So like, what are you going to learn? Like if he has a good performance, you're like, okay, he's playing against guys who are not going to make the roster. So like, how much are you learning exactly? For the Bears, they announced Caleb Williams will not play. It's going to be Tyson Bagent making the start, which is like, again, we saw Bagent last year. He had an exciting game. So I don't know. Are you really looking forward to that? We might see Roma Dunze. We'll see. But even again, it's the same issue with Blake Fisher. Like Roma Dunze could play the first couple of drives, and if he like makes a big catch, you're like, oh wow, this is great. But like then you're like, wait, there's no Keenan Allen, there's no DJ Moore, there's no Cole Kmet. He's the number one target here against cornerbacks who are probably not going to make the roster. So, like, what are you learning exactly? I think, like, the biggest takeaway you could have is if Roma Dunze plays, like, 3 or 4 drives and does nothing, then you're like, okay, maybe you should be concerned a bit. But then still, you're like, but Tyson Bagent was throwing the ball, and, like, maybe Bagent is just incompetent. So, again, I just don't know what we could possibly learn from this game coming up tomorrow. Or I should say later today because it's past midnight. So, yeah, happy August, happy Gluttony Month, everyone. I don't know. I feel like this Hall of Fame game is just such a waste. It's like what's the point even? I know that I know it's like all about enshrining the players, and so like I wish they would just have the ceremony rather than the game. Like, why do we need a game? Just air the speeches tomorrow night or stuff like that. I think that would be more interesting. Like, I'd rather watch that than Tyson Bagent versus Davis Mills. I know we haven't had football in a while, and like Tom disagreed on Saturday, where he's like, yeah, he was excited because it marked the return of football. Like but it's not really football. This is basically the same sort of talent we saw in the UFL or XFL, whatever it's called now. It's the same talent from the CFL. You could watch a CFL game, you could just do that just as easily. It's the same sort of caliber of players. So yeah, because the guys who don't make the roster here are going to try to play in the CFL or XFL, UFL, whatever, unless they're super close to making the roster. So yeah, it sucks that it's just like not something to look forward to. But I'm not. It's like I'm not looking forward to it. It's just like it's not like I'm loathing it. It's just like it's just filler on TV. And just gonna like, I'm gonna have the TV on anyway when I'm doing work, and it's usually like some stupid Netflix show or something. If I'm not like really concentrating on typing up anything, if it's just like updating the homepage or something, I usually have something on TV, and it's just gonna be the Hall of Fame game tomorrow. It's just not gonna make a difference. In fact, like I'm gonna put my son usually goes to bed at 8. And so I'm gonna put in the bed at 8, and I'm gonna record the show, record the game, and just gonna start at the beginning and like try to catch up and like fast forward through commercials, and also halftime, which helps. I even said this today on Twitter. I'm like, I wish they would just cancel the preseason, because these guys don't play in the preseason anymore. Like a lot of the teams don't play any starters, and it's just such a waste of time. Some do, right? Like Mahomes still does. Like he says he needs the reps, which is kind of insane. But I trust him. I mean, he's had the great success. So if he needs the reps, then I guess he needs the reps. But a lot of these teams, like especially like young, like last year with the Colts, for example, they didn't even play Richardson in one of the games, and like you thought that a guy who that raw needed some reps, and he apparently didn't, because he started off so well before getting hurt. So, you can't really like justify playing these guys because of these injuries. Like that 1 year with Michael Vick where he went down, I think it was 03. It was 03 against the Ravens in the preseason. Like that just devastated the Falcons. That cost Dan Reeves his job. It's just, if you play these guys in the preseason and they get hurt, like you're a head coach, you're on their fire. Just like from the owners, like, why are you playing these guys in a meaningless game? Or like the other teams aren't. Why do you need to? So I think it's such a waste. Sue asking, is Conrad landed girlfriend number 2 yet? No, not quite. Based on my jerks of the week, there's this girl at swim lessons, and like they would always like share toys and stuff like that. So I thought of like when I was a kid. I can't remember this girl's name. I'm just really frustrated because I remember I had 3 friends in daycare / summer camp, which is actually, it's funny because my son goes there now. It's called Meadow Lane. Like he goes there. I used to go there when I was a kid too. So it's really cool that he gets to go where I went for daycare and summer camp. But I had 3 friends there. I had this guy John and this guy Brendan, and these John and Brendan hated each other. So like I would have to like spend some time with Brendan, and then Brendan was like this weird kid. He'd get bullied by John. And John was like this douche, but I don't know, for some reason I was friends with him. And he'd be like, stop hanging out with Brendan. I'd be like, okay. And then like the next day when John was there, I'd hang out with Brendan. Just like I felt bad for this kid. I know those guys' names. But then there's this girl also. I was friends with her, and I feel like I was better friends with her than the other 2 guys. And my mom and her mom made these play dates. I think we had a couple play dates, like one at my house, one at her house, and we would play these musical instruments. And we like at the age of like 4, we like vowed to start a band together one day. And I haven't seen her since. I don't know what happened to her. I don't even remember her name. And it's funny that like if I like see her on the street, I wouldn't even recognize her, because like I don't even remember what she looks like even. If I saw a picture of her back then, I'd be like, okay, that's her. But like obviously she's my age now, so if she's like 41/42, if I saw her on the street, I'd be like, I would know what a 41, 42-year-old version of her looks like. So it's kind of bizarre that, and same thing goes for John and Brendan. It's kind of crazy that like these people were such a big part of my life when I was a kid. And like, I think about them all the time, and I look forward to hanging out with them in camp and daycare. But like now, if I saw them on the street, I wouldn't recognize them. And I don't even know what they're up to. Like, I don't know if they're still alive even, or if they had families, or what they're doing for work, or like, who knows, maybe John's in prison, which probably is. I don't know. It's kind of crazy that, you go through life just like being close to people, and then that's it. Like same thing like grade school. Like I barely talk to people from my grade school, a couple for sure. But like people I used to play baseball with all the time, or basketball with, I just haven't seen them or talked to them in years. And Actually, my sister brought up this one guy. I used to play with this guy, Mike. He was my age, like in middle school, like /, like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. We used to hang out all the time. Like he used to come to my house, play video games. I used to go to his house, play video games. And I haven't seen this guy since middle school. And he actually reached out to me, like this was like 15, 20 years ago, with fantasy. He had a fantasy question for me. And that's like the last I've heard from him. So I don't know what the hell he's doing with his life now. It's kind of bizarre. This one other guy, Alex, this guy, he and I went to the same grade school, middle school, and high school, and we were really good friends. And no one has heard from him. Like even like other friends he had. In fact, like one guy I know thinks he's in like the FBI or CIA because he's a super smart guy, and like he just kind of fell off the face of the earth and doesn't have any social media accounts. Like he's like, yeah, I think he's FBI, CIA, and I'm like, it kind of makes sense. But yeah, like I used to talk to this guy all the time. Like we used to carpool together, and just since high school graduation, haven't heard from him. So it's been high school graduation for me was 2000, so it's been almost 25 years, and I haven't heard from this guy. And we used to be really good friends, so it's kind of crazy. So anyway, I just went off this tangent. Mike says best part of Hall of Fame game could be checking out the new kickoff rules. Good point. Okay, yeah, if they don't kick it into the end zone, yes, that is true. Yes, we will get a taste of that. So I am looking forward to that. I forgot about that completely. So yeah, it's a good point, Mike. So we have one thing to look forward to tomorrow. Not quite the players, but the new rules. Mike says, Walt, did you ever visit the Hall of Fame in Canton? I went there once. It's a pretty cool place. I want to go. I haven't been there. I've never been to Ohio, actually. I've flown over Ohio, but I've never actually been there. But yeah, that is something that I do want to do. It's on my bucket list to go to the Hall of Fame. I do want to do that. Not sure if I can quite do that with my kids now being 2.5, and my daughter's gonna be 1 year old and in 17 days. So they're both pretty young. But hopefully, I'm kind of pushing it. But or will be like hopefully my kids both love football. My wife hates football, so there's gonna be pushback from that. Hopefully I can get them both to be football fans, and maybe we can make a trip when they're both old enough. I think that'd be pretty cool. Love to have that experience with them if they're both into it, or at least one is. Like if Conrad is, or who knows, maybe if Lily is, we can make a trip or something. I think that'd be awesome. But yeah, like I said, my wife is gonna push them away from football, unfortunately. I would love to have that like shared experience, like going for the first time with them. I think that would be pretty awesome. So yeah, that would have to happen when they're older. It's kind of crazy that Lily's almost 1. Just feels like yesterday that she was born. It's been a whole year. So yeah, crazy how quickly the time goes. And it's almost 1 a.m. So I don't think we're gonna get Kenny. I'm checking my phone. Yeah, nothing from Kenny yet. So I don't know how long this dinner event is. I don't know what they're eating for dinner. But I do know it's for work, and he's trying to raise money. I don't know if you guys knew this, but Kenny is trying to establish a university in Florida. He used to work at a university in Minnesota. He was the vice president there, and he's trying to create a university. So he's looking for fundraising and stuff like that. So he has these dinner events where he's trying to schmooze with people and try to get rich people to write him checks. That's what Kenny's doing tonight, I assume. So it's not quite surprising that he's gonna be late. And he even said in his last text to me, he's like, I don't think I'm gonna make it in time. Which I was like, yeah, I'm gonna start at 11:30 ish. And then he said, I don't know if I'm gonna make it in time. So I sent him the link, so I don't know if he's gonna come in. But we're pretty close to done anyway. But as far as Reignmakers is concerned, I don't know if you guys are fully aware of what happened. So Reignmakers, obviously, we do these pack openings all the time. And it's basically like it's a digital card thing where you collect cards and you can use them to enter lineups. And it's basically like it's the same sort of lineup that you see on DraftKings. Like in a standard lineup, you need a quarterback, a running back, receiver / tight end, and a flex. You can any position except for quarterback, even kicker and defense. And they do have kicker and defense because they also have you can do the regular lineups like that, or you do deep roster, which is quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, kicker, defense, and then flex. Again, which is anything but quarterback. So for deep roster, that's usually focused on like old cards from years past, where you can either win money, less money, but still money, or you can win packs. Which Kenny and I open, and you can win new cards for that year. And they had good prizes, during the season. They had 100,000 for first place in some of the higher tier contests. And I've told the story before. There was one, it was week 12 of 2023 or 2022. I was in first place in the elite contest, which is 100K to first, like the entire afternoon. Like 4:30 onward to like 7 something. It just said currently winning 100K. I'm like, oh my God, this like holy crap. And I just kept watching. This guy kept itching closer and closer to me in the standings. And I had no one left. I had Josh Jacobs, but he finished earlier. That was the game against Seattle where Josh Jacobs went nuclear. So this guy had Austin Eckler, and at the end of the game, Austin Eckler had one final carry, and in that carry, this guy passed me in the standings. So I did not win 100K. It was just so devastating. It's just that one last play. If that play never occurred or was called back by penalty, I would have won $100,000. And no, I did not. And you might be thinking, second place sounds good. It wasn't near. Like, it was very top heavy, these prizes. It was second place is not anywhere close to 100K. So it was pretty devastating. Last year also, they would also have showdowns, which is like you'd have flex, and then you'd have captain, and then 3 flex spots. Captain would be 1.5K, 1.5x, as you usually see on the DraftKings showdown. So it was the Colts Patriots game in Germany. For most of the fourth quarter, I was in first place by myself. I 20,000 is 20,000 for first place, and I had I remember it was so it's weird, like. In Reignmakers, if you had multiple defensive players from the same team, you could play them, which is rare, because in DraftKings regular contests, if you choose like Colts defense, you can only play one Colts defense. But if you have like a Kwity Paye and DeForest Buckner, you could put both in your lineup and have like double Colts defense. So I had, I think I had like 2 Colts defense. I had Michael Pittman or something as my captain, and then Jonathan Taylor, I think, as my other flex. I think that's what I went with. And that was in first place for most of the fourth quarter. And then the final drive of that game, I don't know if you guys remember, that was the play where what's his face? The backup quarterback for the Patriots. It was the game where Mac Jones got benched. And then it was Bailey Zappi came in. And Bailey Zappi on this final drive did like a fake spike and then just threw off the ball, and it was intercepted. On that interception, the final play of the game, the interception, that moved me from first to fifth place because the 3 guys behind me had the same lineup as I did, but instead of Michael Pittman as captain, they had Colts defense as captain and 1 Colts defense in the flex. So I went from winning 20K to winning like a couple $100. It's just so devastating. So like those are my 2 horror stories of Reignmakers until yesterday morning, where I got an email saying that Reignmakers was going to be defunct. And I was like, what the hell is happening? Because they had everything planned out. They printed these cards, for the new season. They had all these rookies. Like you guys saw it. Like we were opening up packs for with these rookies. I had a Caleb Williams legendary card. I had a Brock Bowers legendary card. I had I pulled the Keon Coleman rare. Like, so I had some good cards, and they even had like the contest plan. They're like, okay, we're gonna do this week. Like they had the whole schedule planned out. They had the playoff thing for golf. They printed all these cards for golf, like I was talking about earlier. It's like, what the hell happened? So apparently, there was a lawsuit where a guy, I don't know what happened with this guy. I should probably look into it, but this guy sued DraftKings because he like lost money or something. He wanted to claim like $14,000 or something, and so DraftKings didn't want to pay him out, and so they went into litigation. And by the ruling, it was ruled that these cards are actually securities. I don't know how they came to that conclusion, but they said these cards were securities, and so this opened up like DraftKings to more liability or something like that. So I guess they were just like, oh, we're going to shut this down completely. And there's like that one guy suing this company screwed over everyone. I just don't know how that's possible. It's like one idiot who lost money somehow on Reignmakers, where it was like, I don't know how you lose money at Reignmakers. It's like the easiest buy low, sell high there possibly is. This idiot lost $14,000 or so he claimed. And he sued DraftKings for this. And just because of that one lawsuit, it just screwed everyone over who had stuff in Reignmakers. And I had a lot in Reignmakers. I had a lot of cards. So this payout better be good that we're supposedly going to get within a week. If it's not, I talked to my lawyer, heard from him today. I reached out to him yesterday, heard from him today. He said, yeah, he told me, he's like, let me know what happens with the payout. If it's bad, we're going to go to litigation. So yeah, it's horrible. John says no, it's 14,200 worth the lawsuit. Okay, yeah, that extra 200. Sorry, yeah, you're right. That was I don't know. It's just like the rug pull is ridiculous. They at least could have like said this is the final year we're going to do it or something, or at least played out the FedEx Cup playoffs, or because like I said, I had money invested in that. So if the payout's not substantial or fair, it's just going to be devastating. So yeah, I'm gonna. Luckily, my lawyer is a good friend of mine, and so he's gonna work hard for this. So. Yeah, I sent him over all like my card values and stuff like that, and yeah, hopefully get a good result here. I was really hoping for Kenny for Kenny to be on to rant about this, but maybe he'll be on tomorrow. I'll extend the invitation to him. I mean, Kenny's always welcome, but to do the fantasy draft together since he couldn't come on this night. I don't know what his Thursdays look like, but if he doesn't have an event, then hopefully he can come on. This is about a Honda Civic. Nice. Sue says, "Oh no, does this mean no more road trips to the beautiful Trenton, home of the Thunder?" Yeah, I was thinking about it. So this Rainmaker stuff is, if they don't screw me over financially, then it's still disappointing because this is like my hobby. I love doing this. I love like collecting these cards and building lineups. It was really fun for me. And it was lucrative too. Like I said, I had those 2 close calls, but I did win some other contests. Like not 100K, but I did win some contests, but it was a cool thing. And like I said, I thought it was easy to make money just buying low, selling high. Like it was just very easy on the market to do that. Just your knowledge. Like if one guy randomly goes off, like his card prices like skyrocket, you just sell the cards you have of him. That's something I like to do, and it's a lot of fun. Like every day, I would check the marketplace and stuff like that for good deals. And sometimes, like Kenny even said it on the show, is like, yeah, sometimes I just put out like offers on cards, and sometimes they're accepted. There's this one Rory McIlroy, a Rainmaker tier card. This guy had listed for $3,900, and I put in an offer that was like almost half of that. And I didn't even expect him to accept the offer, but I noticed that like every day, or every hour, he would just lower the price by $100 every time. I was just like, I didn't move my offer. I just kept it there, and like a few days later, he accepted the offer. I'm like, holy crap! I didn't expect this to happen. I was like, I don't know if I want this card. I was like, it's such a great deal though. But it was a lot of fun. Like it was like something that I always look forward to. I always check the market, like when I got up from bed, brushed my teeth, etc., walked the dogs, and as soon as I sat down on my computer, and I had something to eat, I would just look at the market to see what was out there, and it was always a lot of fun, and always fun to like configure lineups and stuff like that. So it just sucks that I just can't do that anymore. So in addition to the financial stuff, it just I just lost the hobby. It's like it almost feels like I lost a girlfriend or something. That like it's the same feeling I had like when a girlfriend broke up with me. It's like you lost your hobby just out of thin air. Like there's no warning about it either. So yeah, maybe I have to find something else. But yeah, I mean, it was like the perfect combination of something that you could do financially and you can enjoy as a hobby too. So yeah, it blows. It's upsetting. It really sucks. Like this one idiot had to ruin it for everyone. And I'm even thinking like, who cares what the courts say? Like like the Supreme Court told Joe Biden he couldn't forgive student loans, and Joe Biden did it anyway. Like these courts have no power. Like what are they going to do to Reignmakers if they don't treat their cards differently? Like nothing will happen. It's just it's so stupid. So I don't know. I'm really soured on DraftKings. Like I said, if they don't give me a fair offer, I will never recommend DraftKings to anyone ever again. I will never post content about DraftKings. I'll go to FanDuel. There are different options. And I do think DraftKings is the best pricing, but if they're going to screw over their customers like this, then you can't trust them. I know Kenny feels the same way. I don't want to quote Kenny with him not being on here, but he did text me yesterday. He says, I instantly don't trust DraftKings, and I don't think that I want to play on DraftKings at all anymore. And I respond to him yeah, if they screw us over on this compensation, then I will feel the same way. And I'll be on a crusade to just kind of shit talk DraftKings. Sorry for cursing. Crap talk DraftKings at every opportunity. I just but we'll see. Maybe the offer will be fair. And if it is, then I'll continue to use it. But if it's not, then, there will be lawsuits for me and I imagine a lot of other people. And I just won't play DraftKings at all. I still have money on there. I still have DK dollars that I have to spend and crowns that I have to spend. So it won't be instantaneous, just not using it, but I will never post content about it on here. I'll just do contests privately until I can withdraw my money, and then that's it. So yeah, hopefully they're fair. I don't see why they won't be. And my lawyer even said, he texted me. I want to read what he said. And I kind of agree with what he said. He said they are a pretty big company, so it's hard to imagine them thinking they can get away with not making a payout, but we shall see. So yeah, I replied, I'm they said there will be a payout. I'm just worried it's going to be so small. And not even close to what the card values are, because it's kind of ridiculous that, again, they sold these playoff cards for golf, and also this is another thing. Their motion to dismiss was July 2nd, and they just announced it yesterday on July 30th. So they knew about this 28 days, and for 28 days they promoted these playoff sets. You can go look at their Twitter feed, they were promoting playoff stuff, showdown stuff. They were selling cards, knowing that that this is going to happen, that they were going to have to rug pull everyone. And so, I feel like that's very dirty on their part. So, like I said, this compensation better be fair, or there's going to be a lot of lawsuits, not just for me, but a lot of people had a lot of money in this, and it's just not fair. So. Anyway, I feel like they could have just said screw you, courts, just do whatever you want. The courts don't have any power. They just don't. How do you enforce stuff like that? Biden be okay, I'm going to give student loans out anyway. He just said F to the Supreme Court, and this is not even the Supreme Court. Mike says you'll have to double down on the stock options now. Yeah, the cover calls. It's funny you say that, because all the money that I get from this compensation, hopefully it's substantial, it will be going straight to GameStop / other stocks I don't know what you guys think about Nvidia or Amazon, Microsoft, selling cover calls on all these stocks, and maybe that would be my new hobby, collecting shares that money I get from selling cover calls. I was that's the best I have now, I guess. That's my new hobby. I don't know, but yeah, that's funny you mentioned that, because that's exactly where this money is going to go. No, like I said, Reignmakers was lucrative, and it was fun. So yeah, it has to be. This new hobby of mine has to meet both criteria, and I don't know how that could possibly happen. So yeah, it sucks. It's really disappointing. But yeah, I guess gonna end it there. I assume Kenny's not going to come on. It's 1:11 a.m. here on the East Coast. But I will, like I said, I will extend an invitation for him to join us with the draft tomorrow. So looking forward to that. So yeah, tomorrow the plan is, after the Hall of Fame game, going to do a fantasy draft, and then going to talk about it. And then, if you guys, any comments, we'll obviously read and stuff like that. So it'll be a normal show. We'll just do a fantasy draft during the show. But yeah, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. All that would be really appreciated. And thanks guys for coming on and talking to me on the show. And thanks especially to Slew for the 555 super chat. Just really appreciate you and John always contributing. Like you guys are the best. So yeah, all you guys who are always on all the time. Just again, I said this before, but I really appreciate you guys. But yeah, we'll be back tomorrow doing a fantasy draft right after the Hall of Fame game. And then Saturday, we're going to do a show with Tom. Not sure if we can do a draft on Saturdays, but definitely the 3 weekdays, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, we'll do fantasy drafts all throughout August. And then maybe take a break on Saturday with Tom, talk our usual nonsense. Although there will be preseason games, not this Saturday, but ongoing Saturdays. So that might be difficult. So we'll see. We'll play it by ear. But as for the Saturday, we will have a show, and hopefully Tom ends up watching the Purple Wedding episode, so we get to talk about that. So, all right, guys, have a great night. Talk to you tomorrow, and go Tyson Bagent versus Davis Mills. Should be fun.